right, we are live, I believe. Yes, we are going live. And I'll start the recording as well. I'll record to the cloud. Okay, great. Can you see my screen now? Lovely. Hi, everybody. We're having our Meet the Team and networking event this evening. And I'm really excited that we're having our first event of the year. Super exciting. I know that we're all probably in lockdown, but we can still have fun with online events and a bunch of things that we're going to have coming up with Coding Black Females as well to keep everybody occupied. So happy New Year. As much as it's weird, I hope that everybody has something that they can do this year and that we can take some positives out of everything that's going on as well, if we can. And I hope everybody's able to stay safe or as safe as they can, and that people's families are safe as well. But whilst we're here, whilst we're locked down, let's continue getting together virtually and supporting each other virtually and doing what we can in the space that we're in. One of the good things, if you can call it good, that's come out of this world that we're in now is that we can come together so much easier in so many more ways, and that in itself is a great thing. So I'm glad that we're able to come together across the world in different ways and see each other as much as we are now. So for those of you who haven't been to a Coding Black Females event before, to give you a bit of insight into what we do, Coding Black Females was set up back in 2017 to create a community, really, to grow the community for Black women in tech. We've been having quite a lot of events in that time and a lot of training that we've been setting up and getting that we're doing together with loads of people to try and provide people with more opportunities to either enter the industry or progress in the industry as well. And we are the largest community of Black women in tech in the UK. And one day that will be the world. We're working on it. We're going to make it happen. We'll be the largest community in the entire world of Black women in tech. And as many Black women who want to be in tech will be able to be in tech as well. And that is guaranteed, it will happen. We run events twice a month, sometimes more. Last year, I think we counted that we did 55 events. So somehow we got through quite a lot. This year, we're going to try and keep it to 20, 25, 26. Fingers crossed, we won't go crazy. But yeah, there should be quite a lot of events this year as well to keep people entertained. So there will be half of the events we do will be Coding Black Females, and the other half will be with corporate partners as well, who'll be supporting us and sharing information, sharing gems about how to get into the industry, how to work in their industries, and to learn new technologies too. So check that out. We also have a job board. So if anyone's looking for new roles, definitely check out the job board. The link will be at the end, and you'll be able to see how you can get new roles in tech. There's more companies coming through almost every day now who are hiring, and they're really keen to hire from the Black community, and they see the benefit of hiring Black women into their organizations as well. So definitely check that out and see how you can get into the industry and progress and get new roles. We'll also be sharing speaking opportunities, and actually writing opportunities as well are coming up now as well. So if you're interested in doing blogging, if you're interested in speaking, do let us know. And what we'll make sure we do is connect you with the right people to either have opportunities to put your word out there, but also, you know, to get paid for doing it as well. You know, we're getting opportunities to get paid for these things. So definitely keep an eye on the mailing list, on anything you can to find out what we're doing. If you're not in Slack, join the Slack community. You'll find information. We'll share the link actually in Zoom so that you can see how you can join the Slack community and really get involved and find out about opportunities that are coming up. So this afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are, we are going to be meeting the team. So this is the full Coding Black Females team, and most people on the team are volunteers, and everybody who's on the team are doing it just because they genuinely care about doing more in the community and making a difference. We've got a huge range of people who are supporting the community and who are making a difference and who are really, you know, killing it, like just doing awesome things. And I'm so excited that tonight you're going to get to meet some of them. So you will be meeting Efwa and Siobhan. I don't know if you can see, I made it animated. So there's little boxes appearing. But Efwa, Siobhan, and Olivia along with Bola. So you'll be meeting those members of the team this evening. We'll run other events in future where you get to meet more of the team and find out more about what people do in the actual team and in the community. We're also running a social media campaign at the moment, which is hashtag Meet the Team. And you'll be able to find out what everybody's doing, what they do. So do follow Coding Black Females on all social media platforms, and you'll get to see these posts that are coming out. So these are the ones that are out so far. The Meet the Team post, because the team is so great and so big, we'll be running these until the end of February. So you'll get to find out more about what people are doing on the team. I'm going to give people a quick insight into the programs that we have running coming up at the moment. So we have the Black Coder Bootcamp. So that's a coding bootcamp where we're training Black women to get into the tech industry. So that's going to be starting again soon. Applications for the Black Coder Bootcamp will be opening at the end of January. So in around 2 weeks, we are opening applications for the Black Coder Bootcamp. So that's a 6-month bootcamp to learn a range of skills, and that's to become a full stack developer. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out, and we'll be sharing the link for that soon for you to get involved. We also have a Makers partnership. So we've recently partnered with Makers, which is really exciting. They've given us a discount off their bootcamp. So their bootcamp, which is normally £8,000, you'll be able to get it with your Coding Black Females membership for £7,000 instead. And you do that by applying through our website so that you can see, you'll be able to apply and get the apply link there. We're also going to be offering 6 free scholarship spaces to the Makers Bootcamp, which means that you'll be able to do the Makers program for free, for no cost, which is amazing. So those applications are going to be opening in March. So again, keep your eye out, sign up to the mailing list so that when these opportunities come up, you can definitely find out more about how to apply and how to get involved. We also have recently partnered with Brandwatch, and they're an organization who are going to be providing us with some Python training. So with them, we'll be providing a 6-week Python training course, along with a couple of events throughout the year. So keep your eye out for that as well. I've not announced the partner for the next one because we're just in the sign-off phase, but we'll be launching 2 programs this year with another of our partners. One of those will be a leadership program, and the other will be an entry-level training program as well. Both of those training programs are going to last 6 weeks, and that is because they actually really want to hire, but we really want to develop people's skills at the same time. So keep your eye out to see how you can get involved in those programs and get into tech, get involved. And then with Coding Black Females in general, there's going to be training opportunities, speaking opportunities, and mentorship. So sign up to the mailing list and you'll be able to find out when all these things are happening. If you go to codingblackfemales.com, you'll find the sign up link there to find out how to get involved in everything. And we'll share all the links as well in the chat in a moment. But I'm going to hand over to Jessie, who's going to get everybody talking. Thank you, Jessie.
Thanks, Charlene. Yes, so we're going to start off with the talks with the team. And first of all, we're going to have Siobhan. Oh no, sorry, Efwa.
I'm okay for Siobhan to go. No, so I will start. I don't know if we're going to share screens, but probably shouldn't, because I just wrote these slides in the last 5 minutes, so I'll just wing it. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm Efwa Guni. I am a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for about 20 years now. Oh gosh, those numbers. How did I start? So a little bit about my background. I started coding actually at university when I was 18. I started, and I went to university to study computer science and artificial intelligence at Sussex University. A little funny story there is that when I started, I honestly, I didn't even know what Java was. I was like, I looked it up, beans, coffee, had no idea. It was one of my first courses was Java 101. Had no idea what I was doing. But I managed to work my way through that in 3 years, graduated. Then I went to become a I started working in a medical software company, and I did that for about 9 years, and I was writing prologue applications for decision support systems. And that sounds really fancy, but that was kind of like AI back in the day. And then I went on to become a contractor. So I stayed there for 9 years, which is a long time, working on one particular piece of software. And I thought I needed more experience. And so contracting was just made sense to me. And I went and I contracted in many different places, in startups, for charities, for insurance companies, and I got a lot of experience. And during that time, especially working with startups, I thought, you know, this is quite an exciting field. It's something that I feel like I can do and contribute to. I had an idea, and I decided to start my own company called Furnishful. Furnishful.co.uk. It's a website that brings together furniture from multiple different retailers and allows you to shop for them all in one place. And that site's been running for about 5 years now. So I'm the head of technology, and I built the whole site myself. So that's an interesting story I have about that. Other than that, let's see, I'm going from my thing. So what else have I done background wise? I work as so for Coding Black Females, I'm working on the entrepreneurial side of the business, innovation side of the business. So anything to do with that kind of technology and starting businesses, I'm very, really interested in. Right now, I'm also an engineer at a company called Maytech. I'm a senior software engineer there. We work on projects for the public sector. Yeah, so that's mostly about me. I don't think I have, that's a really quick whistle-stop tour of me. I don't think there is much more to say there for me. I can pass it on, and then I'll wait for your questions at the end. But yeah, really exciting. One of the things I love about Coding Black Females is that during my time in the industry and working in all those different fields and all those different companies, I was always the only Black woman there. And I found it really refreshing joining Coding Black Females and finding so many women who are in tech, who are interested in it, because I'd never seen anybody else who was doing what I was doing, interested in what I was doing out there. So it's really quite exciting to be part of this community and help contribute. And I hope to keep on doing that. I can see Charlene's back, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
Amazing, thank you, Afua. Please do ask questions in the chat, and we will have time at the end to answer. Siobhan, are you ready to talk?
Yep. I will share my screen here. I'm going to assume you can see it unless someone shouts at me and says they can't. So I've been in tech for about 2 years now, just over 2 years. So I thought I'm going to share my journey into tech. On the leadership team, I look after community and partnerships. So that's looking at who our amazing community members are and what you're interested in learning about, where you're at in your careers, and then aligning that with the partnerships that we go into and offering interesting opportunities to help you with your career progression and to get to those goals that you have for yourselves. I'm someone who's very passionate about bringing the arts to STEM, and part of that is because I actually have an arts background. So I studied printed textiles design with the aim of becoming an interior designer, but that didn't quite go in the way that I expected it would. I found that when I finished my studies, because I didn't have experience, I couldn't get a job, and I couldn't get a job without working unpaid to get that experience. And that was quite challenging for me. So I actually went into a different industry, which was education. And that's because I did have some experience in that field. And I worked in education for about 7 to 8 years before I decided to go back to study, and was studying philosophy when I came across my first opportunity to learn how to code. So I wrote my first line of code in 2016 on a Code First Girls course, which was learning how to build a basic website, and then later that year learning how to build a web application in Ruby. And that was quite a initially just a transactional reason why I applied. It was, I want to learn how to build a website, so I'm going to do this course. And I wasn't actually prepared for how much I enjoyed the process of learning how to code and working with others, figuring out how we could solve problems together, and seeing something where we put all our ideas into it and seeing it kind of take shape and grow as we contributed to it. And that kind of stayed with me, but I didn't kind of keep learning outside of the course because I was working full-time, studying part-time, and focusing on finishing my studies. But I stayed with the Code First Girls community, and then got an opportunity to work with them as their community programs manager. And that was when I really appreciated how amazing the tech community is. There's lots of amazing opportunities, lots of different industries are figuring out how to bring tech into their work. There's lots of amazing problems that need to be solved, and new ideas emerging every day. And working with Code First Girls and seeing how enthusiastic lots of women are about getting into coding, but realizing how many challenges there are for getting more women into tech, made me really passionate about, one, kind of figuring out how to solve those problems, but also how I could be one of those people working in tech and actually bringing my ideas and experiences to solving problems so they meet more people's needs. And that was also where I got my first kind of exposure to speaking publicly. And so through doing that, I realized that I wanted to learn to code. And that was when I found an opportunity with Black Girl Tech, who were a community for Black women wanting to work in tech. And that isn't actually running anymore, but at the time they were running a scholarship program with 8th Flight for a Black woman to learn how to code over, I think it was about 3 months full time, and be paid a living wage whilst they were doing that. So I applied for this opportunity and was really excited when I got accepted onto the scholarship, and then even more excited when I found that they'd actually decided to take on a cohort of 4 of us, because that made it a very different experience from going in as being the only Black woman in the UK office learning about coding, and actually being surrounded by others who kind of shared a similar background to me, and removing some of that overhead and allowing me to kind of focus on the learning journey. And so that was when I went into my internship, which was towards the end of 2018. And the first major thing that I learned through being an intern was learning to get comfortable with failure. 8th Flight is really focused on writing high quality code, and some of the principles that they teach you about are about how to write good quality code, and also test driving your code so you can be sure that it's behaving in the ways that you expect it to. And that was quite a new experience for me, kind of getting comfortable with the idea of it being okay to fail, and something which I talked about in a talk last year. But it's really been really transformational, not only with getting comfortable with just getting into the problem solving aspect of coding and realizing that it's about problem solving and working together with others to figure out how it's done, but also just in other areas of my life, being okay with taking a little bit more risk and learning as I go along. And after the internship, I was like, yes, this is something I definitely really want to do. So I applied for a job with 8th Flight, and that started with an apprenticeship, which was 6 months of learning, where I had a team of mentors, and they took me through this training program to get me ready for working on client projects. And through that experience, it was quite interesting. We were learning about how to solve a particular problem and then applying that to new languages. Getting comfortable with working for a consultancy and kind of learning new languages on the fly, and ramping up on a new tech stack so we could deliver value as soon as possible to the client. And the moment in my apprenticeship when I really thought, this is it, I've kind of hit the wall and this is the point where they're going to tell me, no, you can't do this anymore, was when I did Elixir, which is a functional programming language. And that was very different from anything I'd done before. But one thing I learned about that, and particularly in coding and programming, you might hit the wall every so often, is really getting comfortable with setting expectations for others. So if you're not going to be able to deliver on something in the way you thought you would, kind of letting them know early and quickly. Also kind of reaching out for help as soon as possible and working with others who had a bit more experience than I did to kind of help work through that. And realizing that one thing one of my mentors said to me, which stuck out, is that this is software, not hardware, and realizing that nothing's really impossible, as much as it might be difficult. there's a learning in there, and there is a way through it. And that's something which I still remember even now as I'm working on more complex things since having learned a bit more. So I graduated from my apprenticeship at the end of 2018 and became a crafter, and then went on to my first client project, which was working in a massive PHP application with a code base that's kind of got areas of it that are easily 10 to 15 years old. And working with legacy code is quite a different muscle, particularly because there are areas that probably haven't been tested and you're not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing, and when they break, it's quite difficult to figure out what's going wrong. But it really gave me that discipline for kind of working through things in a steady way to figure out what's happening and find the solution to the problem. I actually set a goal for myself last year as well, that I wanted to get a promotion. And that was something that I was very transparent with my manager about quite early on in the year. And together was able to see what some of the gaps were in my knowledge and what some of the muscles or the skills were that I needed to develop to help support that transition up to the next level. And I actually had a really great coaching session with Ekua Kant, which some of you may know of, who's in TLA Black Women in Tech. And through that coaching session, identified that there were some things that I could put myself forward to do, which were way out of my comfort zone, things like leading retrospectives and kind of taking more of a leadership role in the consultancy aspect with my client. But that showed that I had some of those leadership skills to help move me up to the next level. And that was successful in helping me to get my promotion towards the end of last year, where I became a senior software crafter. And I then took on a new project with a new client, leading on figuring out what business problems they were trying to solve, and making recommendations around how they could use technology to help them solve those problems. And that's been a really great experience for me, kind of thinking about where I want to continue to go in my career, in terms of, do I want to be someone who is coding day in and day out in my role? Do I want to kind of do more of that consultative work, being client facing, or are there other things that I want to do? And I'm kind of at that stage now where I'm thinking about, I've got about 2 years behind me. I still feel very new. I'm still growing technically, but how can I kind of figure out what the next 4, 5, 10 years look like, and think about what direction I want to go in. So in terms of what's next, my focus at the moment is on technical growth and growing my confidence in technical language and architecture, getting better at saying no. So kind of trying to streamline a lot of the different things that I do, both within my role and outside in the community, because I do a lot of public speaking and mentoring as well. And also trying to carve out time for past personal projects. Some of that is kind of around entrepreneurship and really learning from the past year about how do I build the life that I want to have for myself. And I think working in the tech industry does offer some of those really great opportunities for remote working and entrepreneurship. And so trying to find out how I do that. And just to finish up, I just wanted to give a couple of tips to anyone that's either thinking about coming into tech or is in tech and thinking about where do I go? How do I plan out my career? The first thing I would say is definitely to find your communities. Coding Black Females is an amazing community that has really, to mirror what Efua said, made it really visible to me that there are many amazing Black women in tech at various stages in their career, and that absolutely anything is possible. But also, you know, finding communities around the various interests that I have and tapping into those when I have questions or I'm not sure about something or I'm going through an experience that someone in that community can understand is really helpful to kind of keep bolstering you along the journey. Secondly is having those long-term goals in mind and being open about them where it feels comfortable, and because others can kind of help you along when they know that there's something you're working towards, they can kind of bring you into the opportunities that will help you to get there. And thirdly, I've just kind of worked on a coaching course for leaders, and one of the key things that came out of that was really understanding what your values are, and finding ways to work that align with those values. And I think that's a really key thing that I'm thinking about now, is how do I work in ways that are aligned with my values and are making me happy and helping me to continue growing. And so that's just a bit about my journey, my wild journey over the past 2+ years. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Siobhan. We've got some questions coming in and we are going to answer those at the end once everybody's given their talk, so please do keep them coming in. Great, so I'm going to hand over to Olivia now.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Olivia. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an ops engineer. I've been working in tech for about 3.5 years after doing a career change. I also oversee the mentorship and policy inside the leadership team of Coding Black Female. So what does that actually mean? Well, in regards to the mentorships, is making sure that our people from within our community are being paired with people who can volunteer even just 1 hour a week, whether it's to work on their programming skills or even the soft skills, because I think it's quite underestimated like how important your soft skills are in the role of tech, because it's all well and good you can build the best app, but if you don't have communication skills or you don't know how to plan, that you're going to find it more challenging to progress to the next stage. In regards to the policy section, I oversee that. So whether it's the code of conduct or privacy policy, it's not just me that works on it, the whole team does. Because it's one of those things when you start business, you need to have all these things in place and make sure that you all agree upon it as a team. So when things goes wrong, we have processes in place of how to escalate and how to come to a solution. So a bit about why do I get involved with Coding Black Females? Well, like I previously said, I did a career change, and back then I didn't know anyone who looked like me that worked in the tech space. So growing up, I was always into computers. I love gaming. I was always like the in-house like IT support person. So I was fixing computers, printers, even repairing mobile phones. It just felt natural to me. That stage, I didn't know that you can actually do that sort of thing as a career. So when I got to uni wasn't the place for me. I didn't know until I was an adult I was dyslexic, and I chose degree courses which probably, if I'd known beforehand, I would have gone something more vocational, but never mind. So I dropped out of uni and I worked for my university for a while doing admin work. And a lot of people kept saying to me, like, Olivia, you're really good with computers. Why are you not working with computers? And I think for me, it was more, again, it's hard to become something you cannot see. I kept shrugging it off. It's like, nah, that's not possible. So when the company went through restructuring, I thought, you know what, I'm going to just quit and try something new. And I took a career break. And I researched like what is a developer and spoke to some people about it. And it's quite nerve-wracking because there's so many different languages to choose from. So I just said to myself, okay, just pick one language, which was Ruby at the time. And I did like a lot of online courses. I went to a lot of events like codebar.io. And it got to a point where I felt like I was hitting a blocker, because it's like, there's so much to do with tech. I don't know what the fundamentals are. I don't know what things are relevant and what things I don't need to know. So I did like what some people might do and chose to do a coding bootcamp. So I did one of those bootcamp. I went to Lewagen. I was the first London batch there. It was a big risk because they weren't known to me before, like some of the more established like makers. And also they made it quite clear at the beginning, there's no guarantee you're going to get a job afterwards, because at that time, their model was more geared towards entrepreneurs. So if you had a product idea, but you didn't have the team to build it, they will teach you the skills to build your MVP. So I thought, you know what, I just need the skills. And it was tough. It was 9 weeks boot camp. I had moments where I did cry because it's very intense. A lot of things, like even till this day, it's like it's now like coming back to me. It's like, oh, I do need to know about databases. But back then it was just like so much impact. But anyway, the main thing is about persevering. I got through that, and it was a relief at the end when presenting the project that we did. It was just that moment, like knowing that I can actually do this. So after I finished the boot camp, because I had so many years of customer service experience from working as an admin assistant, and I had my interest of computing, it was felt natural to me to go down the tech support route because that's something that I was already doing. So for my first job in tech, I was a tech support engineer for Windows Tech desktop support for a sports tech company. And there I was able to hone in some more of my skills. And like most like new junior roles that are created out of thin air, you don't know what it is that you're meant to do, because what the paper says and what you do are two different things. For example, I didn't know that I need to know JavaScript. So to realize that you're going to be writing calculations in JavaScript for your client because the coaches need to work out formulas for the athletes, that was challenging in itself. But it's one of those ones, like, sometimes it's good in life to be just thrown into the deep end, because I think you learn more when your safety net's just taken away. And so that taught me resilience. So after I went from doing that role, I was picked up as a trainee at DXW as an ops engineer. And again, because of my interest in computing, I've gone from working with Windows to now supporting macOS users. And that was okay because I use macOS in my spare time. So it's not like I had to learn something new. A lot of my skills were transferable. So it was great, like leaving Windows behind. I'm moving on to macOS. And 50% of my time was to learn the trade of what is a ops engineer? What's a DevOps culture? What are all these things? And although that was well and good, like many people, especially Black women, sometimes it can get a bit lonely when you're like the only one in your tech team. And it's like, it's so important to find your network, because they're the ones that are going to support you for your struggle. And you can share your wins as well. So this was what brought me back in 2019 to find Coding Black Females. And it was that event, the first one, where I was sitting in a room with 20 people and they were like, yeah, we want to meet more regularly. And I was like, yeah, like I'm going to go and ask my company to sponsor us, not just the meeting room, but also refreshments. And we're going to make this a regular thing. And I didn't know that I was going to be the change, like the catalyst, starting something new. And this led on to more sponsorships from other companies. And then we just grew. So back in 2019, it was mostly Charlene and I that were running these events. And I don't know how we did it, but we did about 30 events back in 2019. So when Charlene spoke earlier that in 2020, we did 55 events, that's because we scaled up our leadership team from 2 people to 12 people. And that's how we were able to achieve more together as a team. And that's just phenomenal. But one thing that you need to take away from today is it's not too late to get into technology. We are already aware of the biases in, for example, facial recognition, how you're more likely to be misidentified if you're a dark-skinned person than if you're a white-skinned person. We need to be in these spaces to help facilitate the user-centered needs. Because if we're not in all these different roles, it's not just about representation, it's about being at the boardroom to make these decisions. So if we're not there to challenge these decisions, these things will become more and more problematic. So you might be sitting there thinking, but I don't really want to code. That's fine. There's plenty of other roles in tech where you don't need to code. You could be a project manager, you could be a delivery lead, you could be a scrum master, whatever. There is something there for everyone. And tech, as I touched upon, I was dyslexic, it's quite neurodivergent as well. So it's okay. It's quite normal to have these. If anything, I see it as a superpower. If you treat it as a superpower, then you won't see it as an obstacle and you can use it to your advantage. Because there's many times I see things that other people can't, and it's okay. So that's all I have to say, but I hope that you might feel inspired to either get into technology or to continue your journey or to volunteer, even if it's just mentoring. And you don't even need to be like an expert in something. If it's something that you know something about, just share it. So thank you for listening.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Olivia. That's great. Keep your questions coming through, everybody. We're going to ask them all at the end. Thank you. And I'd like to hand over to Bola now, if you're here.
There we go. I'll show my, I think I'm showing my screen. I'll let you see my face as well.
Yes, I can see your screen.
If Zoom will let me show my face, I will definitely do that. Gosh, I'm so sorry. You know when the Zoom just disappears and you can't find it anymore? It still disappeared. 1 second.
If you stop sharing, does it come back?
Yeah, I can't even access anything to even shop. Okay, 1 second. Let's see. Okay, yeah. There we go. See, some people are better at this stuff than me. There we go. I'll reshare my screen. I was jumping too far ahead there. Cool. So yeah, I think you can see the screen now and you can hear me. Okay, perfect. So hi, I'm Bola Ajose. I'm a technical operation analyst at Permitive. My pronouns are she, her. So I'm really, really excited to share my journey into tech because it's quite a new one. And I only just kind of joined the Coding Black Females leadership team, I think last year, November, December. So all really, really new and really excited to share. So I actually went to university at Nottingham and I studied pharmacy. At the time, I think I just put myself into this idea that sciences was everything that I wanted to do. And pharmacy was a good in between talking to people, which I love to do, and being kind of involved with all these sciences. But by the time it got to like third, fourth year, I decided actually, maybe pharmacy is not the one for me. I love learning, but actually talking to patients and like being quite prescriptive in that manner wasn't necessarily me. I kind of enjoyed having a bit more ownership over my role and having a bit more creativity, which kind of pharmacy at that time didn't lend to me unless I wanted to kind of go a more industry route, which meant that I would have to kind of put in a bit more effort, which at the time I decided actually I didn't want to do. So I decided not to do that. And I left university and I thought, I still love STEM. How can I kind of put STEM and my creativity together? And during university, I did a lot of kind of events with a company called ISEC. So I thought, let me put those two together and look for logistic roles in anything STEM related. Did a lot of random jobs as millennials tend to do, and then finally landed in STEMet. So I worked in STEMet for around about a year, kind of starting part-time, moving to full-time, doing logistics for them. With STEMet, it was a really, really amazing experience and I was exposed to so much technology. Part of the role is to do kind of basic HTML with young girls, so you kind of teach them how to make a basic website. And so from day one, that was kind of part of my role, which I really, really loved. I love facilitating, so I kind of thought, oh, maybe it's more of the facilitating that I love. And as I kept doing it, I realized actually it's more the problem solving that's coming with this, like actually helping the girls come up with a website and seeing kind of their faces light up. It also made me quite excited to like learn more about coding. So as things progressed, decided, let me go part-time again with STEMet. Maybe I want to become maybe a project manager or a product manager in tech because I quite enjoy how it works. So I left STEMet, worked part-time and started to learn coding on myself just so that I could actually understand a bit more about what I could potentially go into do. As I started learning coding, I started with kind of the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which I absolutely loved. JavaScript made my head like explode, but it was a really, really great way to really challenge myself. and so I was kind of looking at different ways to get a bit more exposed to technology, coding and things like that. I worked at Afrotech first, just a volunteer, and at that point I met Tolope, who is the founder of Coders of Color, and she was running a summer workshop, and I said, well, you know, events is kind of what I'm used to, so happy to help. And kind of from there, like a really great friendship and partnership kind of blossomed, which is really lovely. Also speaks to the power of Black women. I always think, like, I've met so many Black women, and the first thing they do is, how can I help you? And let's go on with it. And it's never anything else than that. So I volunteered at the summer program, which was helping young kids be exposed to all range of tech, and again inspired me, which I always quite love. These events inspire me as much as the children, and is great. So yeah, I love all those kind of events. So I kept learning tech, did a 1 week work experience at FutureLearn, again by the power of a Black woman, who I had met through Coders of Color, and she arranged for me to sit in. And this was a really, really, really great exposure. So this was around about maybe 3 months into learning JavaScript and React, and they use React as their coding, and they were actually moving, I can't remember what they were using before, but they were moving everything over to React. So part of the, like, me learning was actually sat down making kind of components and things with React, and it was like super, super interesting, really, really fun, and thrown in the middle, seeing actually how tech worked in real life. From then, tried to like push myself out as much as possible with different events. And so Coding Black Female became kind of the go-to to try and do that. I joined TDD workshop, test-driven development workshop, early last year, which later on transitioned online. And that was, again, a really, really lovely way to kind of get technical knowledge, because I was teaching myself. I was just looking at Code Academy, Free Code Camp all this time, but actually being in a kind of space with other people and someone actually teaching me, even if it wasn't React or HTML or CSS, it was still really, really valuable because I could get that kind of in-depth coding experience. From all of that and months of job hunting during a pandemic, which isn't the most fun, I landed on a job in Permitive. And again, the power of Black women, it was Tolope who sent me the link to apply. And I said, okay, let me apply. I have no idea if I'm going to get this job. Kind of seems a bit out of my reach, but I applied and really fell in love with the company from the first interview I had with my manager, well, now manager. And Permitive is essentially kind of working to make technology more privacy and efficient, so that cookies don't steal your whole life, essentially, in a nutshell. And it's a really great place for me to learn. So my role at the moment takes tech, and also it's essentially tech support. And for me, it's really perfect because I love still talking with people and helping solve people's problems, but also kind of using technology to do that and kind of pushing myself out of the boundaries that I thought that I kind of put around myself for how much I could learn. And I've learned so much. I joined in September, and already, yeah, like the learning progress has been crazy, and just so happy and grateful to all the people in my life that kind of really encouraged me and helped me to get there. So for me, I always kind of thought, why did I actually, why tech, why kind of coding, why any of this? I have 4 kind of principal things that I realized that I needed in order to kind of keep me at a job. So one was something that allowed me to problem solve. And I think back, that was pharmacy. I could problem solve in pharmacy, something that allowed me to have continuous learning. And again, pharmacy allowed me that. So I think that's why I was drawn to there. But then I also need creativity, and events allowed me to have creativity. So that's how I was drawn there. And lastly, I want my brain to kind of feel on fire. Like, I like to be really challenged and pushed as much as possible. So actually, not necessarily just coding, but the world of tech allowed me to fulfill all of these things. So for me, it wasn't just about being a coder. It was exposing myself to all kinds of different parts of tech and seeing what works best for me. So far, I love being in tech support, and I think I probably will kind of go down more a kind of human technology merging kind of basis and maybe go into consulting or something along those lines. Who knows, I might decide that like pure development and coding is for me, but at the moment I really love kind of that balance that's afforded to me. These are kind of like my top tips-ish for if you're looking to transition into tech. And to be fair, even if you are like kind of a university student already in computer science, I think this can still be relevant. So for me, it was also always looking at online resources. If you don't have the money to go for a boot camp, or you don't have the time to go for a free boot camp, then online research sources are really, really useful. And again, can just bolster any education you're doing. Support groups like Coding Black Females are so important, even if it isn't just for the events, just having people that look like you, that you can see doing something similar to what you're doing, that you want to do, is so important. I also think knowing your why. I like to talk about people's whys and stuff like that. If you want to know all about the why, let me know and I can tell you more. But knowing why you're doing what you're doing is so important for you to keep going. Don't rush, which is almost the hardest thing, especially when you're transitioning, because you come into the world of coding and there's, okay, let's do front end, but then also there's Python and there's Ruby and there's all these different languages. What should I learn? Like, what will let me get the best job? Like, what do people want? Just kind of take it slow, learn one language at a time, because basically being able to really understand one language will allow you to kind of apply that to all different types of languages. And those kind of core concepts come up and up again. So when you really immerse yourself in learning one thing, that will automatically kind of just transition to other things rather than learning things in bits and pieces. It makes it a bit harder that way. Be kind to yourself, which again is hard, but especially now in a pandemic, be very kind to yourself. It's not easy doing, like, being able to get up in the morning and just go about your day is a win in itself. So be as kind to yourself as possible. And lastly, don't stop learning. I say this even though I've been very slow at learning myself, but learning can be in different ways. It doesn't always have to be literally sitting down doing kind of katas again and again. It can just be watching a YouTube video or a podcast about people talking about things. Learning can be quite passive, but just kind of pushing yourself to kind of take in as much as possible of the industry is really important. And lastly, why Coding Black Females? Well, because for me, community is everything. And if it wasn't for all these amazing Black women in my life, I wouldn't have got to the job, being even able to really express myself in the ways that I want to express myself. Like, in every step that I've gone through, Black women were at the key of my success. And so if I can help someone just understand what does VAR mean, I'm here to do that. So anything I could do to help someone, and that's why I kind of Coding Black Females, and the excitement, hence the Carlton GIF. And so yeah, that's everything. And if you want to contact me, you can.
Amazing, thank you, Bola. And now we're going to go through some of the questions that we've been submitting throughout the talks. The first one here is for Efwa. It's from Aaliyah. What kind of support do you offer in the area of entrepreneurship?
Okay, yes, for me, I also I do some talks about how to start your business. So if anybody who's looking to start a business, who's thinking about it, who doesn't know what they need to get that started, especially from the tech aspects, I run a course explaining that and doing that in detail. So that's the kind of support I would offer through CBF too.
Oh, great, thank you. And I guess this one can be for everyone, but what's the best way to figure out what areas or roles within tech are best for you? I don't know who wants to go first with this one. Maybe you. Oh, sorry, Siobhan, go ahead.
I think that can be a hard one, especially when you're starting, because there are so many different options out there. I think it's important when you start out not to pressure yourself too much to have it all figured out. I think the most important thing when you're first starting out is being in an environment that's going to allow you to learn and support you with your learning journey. And potentially gives you an opportunity to have exposure to more than one area if possible, just to kind of get a sense of how those differ. Because that can give you a sense of, these are ways that I like to work, or problems that I like to work on, and then you can look for opportunities to continue doing that. The other thing I would say is to, it's going to sound like a bit of a plug, but come to our events or look up some of our events on YouTube, where we've had kind of people giving insights into their different roles and what their roles involve. So finding ways to find out what it is that people do day to day, how they got into their roles, what they're really excited about in their jobs. And that can also give you a sense of what the different possibilities are. And then lastly, I would say reaching out and asking questions. So whether that's asking questions within communities, or finding mentors that have a sense of what the different options are, and can kind of help you to figure out how you can kind of get started on finding an area that really works for you. And also, don't be afraid to say if something isn't working for you as well. Yeah.
Siobhan, the next question was for you as well. What skills did you need to build on or gain to move from a junior position to a senior position?
Yeah, so for me, where I started from was looking at, in 8th Sight, there's quite a good sense of what skills you need at each level and what things you might be expected to be doing. So what the expected things are at each level and what some of the optional things are. So what I did was looked at what I was doing in my day-to-day role at the moment, and what was expected at the next level, and whether there were any of those things that I was doing already or opportunities for me to do more of that. I think the key things are around kind of leadership or technical competency, so being a bit more technically skilled. So being a senior, it's either about being able to lead on projects technically, and that might include leading other people, or kind of doing more of that managerial side of things. So I kind of pulled from experiences I had before coming into tech, to show that I had those leadership skills, as well as kind of figured out what technical skills I needed to keep working on as well. I hope that's an answer. If it's too vague or it needs to be more in depth, feel free to add a follow-up question to the chat.
The next one as well, I think, is for anybody to pick up, but how do we have any advice for somebody to help land their first tech job without having corporate experience in tech? And they've added that they have a BSc in computer science and big data skill sets acquired during boot camps.
I can try and answer. I think your degree and like all the kind of additional courses you've done definitely bolster like yourself as a good candidate. I don't think you necessarily always have to have professional experience. It's useful, but I don't think it's a necessity. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can, whatever you've done with anything, you can always relay that. And again, kind of just saying that you've spoken to people in the industry or you've attended events in the industry about the industry, I think honestly can be as important. Like, it is very difficult to get very much professional experience. So I'd focus more on the kind of the other kind of skills that you could probably learn instead of that.
Thank you.
Sorry, to add a little bit as well, just to say that one thing that I think is key at the early stages in your career is to have things that you can show to people to say, this adds to you might not have the experience, but it adds to showing that you're determined and that you're willing to put the hard work in at that early stage to sort of set you apart from other people. So if you can do side projects, do those. If you can go to events, sign up to new programs that you might see happening. just because then when you're applying, you can say, might not say that you don't have experience, but you can say the things I have done are, I go to these events because I really care about tech and I really want to develop these skills and these programs. And I also have this side project that's delivering this benefit to these people, so try to think of those things as well that you could be doing to give yourself a bit of an edge. And also, so what we're trying to do at Coding Black Females is create programs in partnership with companies so that you can then have that company on your CV and say, I actually did a leadership program at this organization, or I did a Python program at, like, I don't know, Brandwatch or whatever. So just so that you've got more companies that you can then be affiliated with when you're applying for roles as well.
Thank you. The next question is for Olivia. What would you say are your top tips when moving to tech from another industry as a career change?
Okay, so if you don't have in mind what kind of role you want to do, the best thing to do is to look at job roles first, and then find people who actually do those jobs and talk to them. Whether you use social media platforms to connect with other people that are doing the jobs that you might be interested in, quite often you'll find people are more than willing to give you that half an hour of their time to talk about like what that job entails and how they got into it and things like that. It's quite a quick way of trying to filter out what it is that you do or don't want to do before even worrying about how to go about gaining the skills that you might need.
Great, thank you. There's another one for you, which is about how did you determine the languages and concepts which were important for you to study, and how did you get those to help with the job hunt?
Yeah, so because because after I finished the boot camp, I stopped looking for developer roles. So I didn't feel that I was ready for it. Looking for more tech support roles, I found that the job requirements were quite varied. So quite a lot of them did want you to have other certifications, which I simply didn't, but I just applied anyway. Because like, why not? It's like, if guys can apply for any jobs and I don't meet the criteria, why can't I? So I had that kind of mentality, and I remember one job was like, although I presented myself really well, I just didn't get it because they were looking for people that specific qualification, which is fine. So I just treated that as a redirection. But it's one of those ones where as long as you can explain yourself, the projects you've done, and your willingness to learn whatever the new challenges are ahead, it's down to that employer to give you that chance to have a go. That's what I believe.
Amazing. One more as well is which skills in particular were key for you to present during your interviews? So
I remember one of my job interviews when I was just starting my first tech support job. So one of the interviews I went to was a second stage interview, and you had to present something. And I didn't know what to present because you meant to like just give a presentation, talk about something. So what I did, I took one of the early projects I did during my boot camp, which was a basic Ruby on Rails app, which I did in the team, where it was like a tool hire service. So a person could have a tool for hire and you can book it and you can schedule a pickup. It was just something basic like that. So I went in there, I presented it, I explained the concept of it. I showed the feature, like how it worked. I explained it was just an MVP, it wasn't a finished product. I didn't think much of it because I just thought it was quite basic, it was nothing fancy. That alone just blew their minds. That session led into third stage interview straight after. I thought I was just going to be there just for half an hour. I was there for a good 2 hours. And you could see like the eagerness, the willingness, like they wanted to know more. And they were like, you are aware that this isn't a development job that you're applying for? And I was like, yeah, I know, but you have an in-house development team. So maybe later on I can progress in-house. And they just loved it. So it's one of those ones where even if you do something basic like a project, talk about it, because you don't know how the other person will respond.
Great, thank you. I think we had one more that was a general one. What tips this is for everybody, what tips do you have for students who have started coding and they're on and off with their studying and need the motivation to get back onto it?
Okay, I haven't done this myself, but I think it's quite important if you are able to find an accountability partner. Reason being, at least you can check in with each other that they're achieving whatever that goal might be. It could be something completely different. They might not be even being doing coding, but it's just having someone that will check up, say, hey, how are you getting on with that? And work together. It might be the case that they might not know the answer, but they might help you connect with someone that might know the answer. So I think if you have an accountability partner or group, it doesn't have to be a person, it could be a group of you, it does help.
Great. Charlene, do you think we should move on to the networking session now?
Yeah, let's have some fun networking time. So just to let you know how it's all going to work, we are going to put you into breakout rooms. I think 4 or 5, whatever works best. When you're in a room with people, find out something about the person that you're in the room with. Find out how to connect with them as well on social media. But also, one thing that I think is really important, you know, it's the start of the year, we're all setting goals, we're all setting like plans. Find out, let people know what your goals are and see if there's a way that maybe you could support each other as well. It could be that you find your accountability partner in there or you find a mentor in there. But we'll have a room and then I think we'll rotate and then have another one, maybe like 10 minutes after that. Sound good? Oh, and before we go, at the end of today, we'll be giving out some JetBrains licenses, which we're very excited about. So stick around for your JetBrains license. Woo! Yeah, we'll head into some rooms.
Okay, I think everybody should have been invited now.
Yeah, people are disappearing. Do I just need to jump into one?
I think so.
Oh,
I don't.
YT, thank you. People on YouTube, we're going to disappear because we're going to do some networking. We're going to stop recording now and we're going to stop streaming. So if you would like to join us for some networking, then if you go to our meetup page, you can find the Zoom link to get involved. But we will see you shortly. Bye.